The forest behind Ethan's house was supposed to be off-limits. His mother had warned him 100 times. Don't go past the old creek. The woods aren't safe. But curiosity had always been stronger than fear, especially for a 6-year-old boy who believed the world was bigger than the quiet farming town he lived in. That morning the forest felt wrong. The birds were silent. The air hummed faintly, like distant thunder trapped beneath the trees. Ethan clutched the wooden stick he pretended was a sword and pushed through the brush, following a strange metallic scent that didn't belong in nature. Then he saw it. Something large lay crashed between the trees, half buried in torn earth and smoking metal. At first, Ethan thought it was a crashed airplane until it moved. A long, clawed hand twitched. Ethan froze. The creature was tall, even while lying on the ground. Its skin shimmered like liquid silver, streaked with dark blood that glowed faintly blue. Its chest rose and fell unevenly, and its eyes, when they slowly opened, were not monstrous. They were afraid. The creature noticed him and tried to move, only to cry out in pain. A deep, echoing sound that made the air vibrate. Ethan's heart pounded. Everything inside him screamed run, but the creature didn't attack. It raised a shaking hand and lowered its head, a gesture of surrender. Ethan swallowed hard. My name's Ethan," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I won't hurt you." The alien studied him, its glowing eyes narrowing as if struggling to understand. Slowly, it reached toward its chest and pressed a clawed finger into a wound that was leaking shimmering blood. Then in a voice that sounded like stone grinding against wind, it spoke. "Hurts," Ethan gasped. "You can talk." The alien's eyes softened. "Little one, help." That was all it took. Ethan ran, not away, but back home. He stole bandages from the bathroom, water from the sink, and a blanket from his bed. When he returned, the alien hadn't moved. Its breathing was shallow now. Ethan cleaned the wound the best he could, ignoring how strange the blood felt against his fingers, warm, humming with energy. The alien never attacked him, never even flinched. When Ethan wrapped the final bandage, the creature placed a massive hand gently on the boy's head. "Kind human," it whispered. A soft blue light passed between them. Ethan gasped as something warm filled his chest, not pain but understanding. Images flashed in his mind. Stars burning across endless skies, worlds beyond imagination, warriors training beneath twin suns. The alien's name echoed in his thoughts. Kael'thar. Over the next few days, Ethan returned again and again. He brought food, water, and stories about school and his dog and how his dad used to tell him to stand tall no matter how small you are. Kael'thar listened, and when his strength returned, he began to teach, not with words, but with movement. He showed Ethan how to stand, how to breathe, how to feel the air move around him. How to listen not just with ears, but with instinct. When Ethan held a stick, Kael'thar corrected his stance, guiding his arms with surprising gentleness. "This is focus," the alien said slowly. "Your kind calls it aim." Days turned into weeks. Ethan learned to strike moving leaves midair, to sense danger before it came, to still his fear and act anyway. What he didn't know was that far above them, something else was watching. A scout vessel drifted silently in orbit. Its sensors locked onto Kael'thar's energy signature, and it sent a signal: target found, retrieve or terminate. The day they came, the forest shook. Black-armored figures descended from the sky, weapons glowing with lethal intent. Trees exploded. The ground burned. Kael'thar shoved Ethan behind him. "Run," he growled. "You must live." Ethan's hands trembled, but he didn't run. Instead, he picked up the wooden staff Kael'thar had helped him carve. "No," he said, voice shaking but strong. "You saved me, I won't leave you." The alien stared at the boy, then smiled. The attackers charged. What happened next would be spoken of in whispers across the galaxy. Ethan moved. Not like a child, not like a human. He moved with precision, instinct guiding him as he dodged blasts, struck weak points, and used the forest itself as a weapon. The training, the bond, the strange energy within him, it all came together. By the time the dust settled, the invaders lay defeated. The forest was silent again. Kael'thar knelt before the boy. "You were never meant to be ordinary," he said. "Your kind, your spirit, it is rare. Today you have chosen your path." Ethan felt tears on his cheeks, though he wasn't sure why. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked. Kael'thar placed a small, glowing symbol into the boy's palm. "When the stars call you," he said softly, "you will know." Then, with a final nod, he activated a hidden beacon. Light consumed him, and he was gone. Years later, legends would spread across the stars. Of a human warrior who fought like no other. Of a child who chose compassion over fear. of the boy who once saved an alien and changed the fate of two worlds forever. And it all began in a quiet forest with a 6-year-old boy who chose to help instead of run. The forest never felt the same after that night. Ethan noticed it first when he stepped outside at dawn. The air seemed heavier, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Birds flew higher now. Animals avoided the clearing where Kael'thar had vanished. Even the trees leaned away, as if remembering the power that had passed through them. And Ethan was different too. He could feel it in his bones. When he closed his eyes, the world didn't disappear, it sharpened. Every sound had direction. Every movement had meaning. He could feel the wind shift before it touched his skin, sense the vibrations of insects crawling beneath the soil. It scared him and thrilled him. At school, he couldn't focus. Numbers blurred. Words felt slow. His teacher's voice sounded distant, like it was underwater. When a bully shoved him in the hallway, something inside Ethan reacted before he could think. The boy flew backward. Not hard, just enough to land on his back, stunned. Everyone froze. Ethan stared at his hands, heart racing. He hadn't touched him. That night he returned to the forest. He knelt where Kael'thar had once sat and whispered into the darkness. "I don't know what you did to me, but I think I'm changing." The wind answered, not with words but with presence. A shimmer appeared between the trees, faint, unstable, like a ghost struggling to exist. Kael'thar emerged, weaker than before, his form flickering like a dying flame. "Your mind has opened," the alien said softly. "I feared it would happen too soon." Ethan ran to him. "Are you dying?" Kael'thar smiled sadly. "I am already dead, little one. What remains is an echo." He knelt with effort, placing a glowing hand over Ethan's chest. "What you feel is the awakening, a rare compatibility between your kind and ours. The ability to learn beyond instinct." Ethan swallowed. "Is that bad?" "No," Kael'thar said. "It is dangerous." He gestured, and images flooded Ethan's mind, worlds burning, cities in ruin, massive fleets tearing through space. Creatures like Kael'thar standing against impossible odds. "My people were hunters once," Kael'thar said. "Guardians of balance, but power breeds fear, and fear breeds war." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then why give this power to me?" "Because you chose kindness," Kael'thar replied simply, "and because the galaxy will soon need someone who remembers what that means." A deep rumble echoed through the sky. Kael'thar stiffened. "They are searching again." "Who?" Ethan asked. "The collectors." The name itself made the air vibrate. "They harvest abilities," Kael'thar explained. "They will come for you, for what you are becoming." Ethan's heart pounded. "What do I do?" Kael'thar placed a small, crystalline device into his hand. It felt warm, alive. "When the time comes," he said, "this will guide you. It will awaken what lies dormant inside you." "And you?" Ethan asked quietly. The alien's form flickered, already fading. "My time is done, but my promise stands. You are not alone." With a final, gentle nod, Kael'thar dissolved into starlight, scattering into the night sky like 1,000 dying suns. Ethan screamed his name, but there was no answer, only silence. Days passed, then weeks. Strange things began to happen. Animals followed Ethan. Broken things seemed to fix themselves when he touched them. Once when a car nearly hit him, time slowed, just enough for him to step aside. He hit it all. Until the night the sky cracked open. A tear of light ripped through the clouds and something massive descended, cloaked in shadows. Sirens wailed across the town. Power died, people screamed. And in the middle of it all, Ethan stood frozen as a voice boomed inside his mind. "Target confirmed, specimen LOCATED." The collector ship hovered above the forest, scanning. The crystal in Ethan's pocket burned. He knew then. Running was no longer an option. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding, fear clawing at him, but beneath it something stronger burned. Resolve. He raised his hand. The air bent. The ground trembled. And for the first time in human history, a child stood against the stars, not as prey, but as a protector. Lightning twisted unnaturally through the clouds as the massive alien vessel hovered above the forest, its hull glowing with symbols older than Earth itself. Trees bent under the pressure of its gravity field. Windows shattered miles away, and at the center of it all stood one small boy. Ethan's heart pounded so hard he thought it might tear free from his chest. The crystal in his pocket pulsed with heat, each beat matching his own racing pulse. Target confirmed. The voice echoed inside his skull, cold and mechanical. Ethan clenched his fists. "I'm not going with you." A beam of light swept across the clearing, scanning him from head to toe. The air vibrated as armored figures descended from the ship, tall, angular beings with glowing visors and weapons humming with deadly power. The collectors had arrived. Subject displays anomalous energy signature, one of them announced. Capture protocol initiated. Fear threatened to paralyze him, then he remembered Kael'thar's voice. Breathe, feel the world, let it move through you. Ethan inhaled slowly. The forest answered, the ground beneath his feet hummed. Leaves lifted into the air as if caught in an invisible current. His fear didn't vanish, but it sharpened, focused, turning into something fierce and alive. The first collector fired. A bolt of searing energy ripped toward him and curved. It bent around Ethan like water around stone, slamming harmlessly into a tree behind him. The alien soldiers hesitated. Impossible, one of them hissed. Ethan didn't know how he was doing it. He just felt the path the energy wanted to take and nudged it away. Another shot came, then another. He moved, not fast, precise. Each step placed perfectly, each motion guided by instinct rather than thought. A fallen branch leapt into his hand as if pulled by magnetism. When he swung it, the air itself hardened, striking a collector and hurling it backward in a burst of sparks. The forest had become his ally, but there were too many of them. A massive figure stepped forward, taller, heavier, its armor etched with glowing crimson runes. Subject exhibits unacceptable potential, it rumbled. Termination authorized. The ground cracked as it charged. Ethan's legs trembled. He felt small again, just a boy standing before something that could erase him with a thought. And then something inside him answered. The crystal in his pocket burst with light. Time slowed. The world dimmed as if someone had lowered the sun. Ethan saw lines of energy threading through everything, the soil, the air, even the enemy before him. He understood instinctively that these lines could be touched, pulled, shaped. He reached out. The collector lunged. The forest exploded with light. A wave of force erupted from Ethan, throwing the massive alien backward like a broken doll. Trees bent, soil tore free, and the sky itself rippled. When the dust settled, the battlefield was silent. The remaining collectors hesitated. Then something unexpected happened. They retreated. Their ship rose into the sky, engines roaring as it tore open a rift and vanished into the stars. The forest fell quiet. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping, his body shaking from exhaustion. The light faded. The power receded. He was just a boy again, but not the same one who had entered the forest days before. As the adrenaline faded, a soft glow appeared beside him. A familiar figure formed from the light. Kael'thar. "You have crossed the first threshold," the alien said, his voice filled with pride and sorrow. "The galaxy has seen you now." Ethan looked up at him, eyes wet. "I was scared." "As you should be," Kael'thar replied gently. "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing to act despite it." He knelt before Ethan, placing a hand over the boy's heart. "The collectors will not stop, others will come. Some will want to use you, others will want to destroy you." Ethan swallowed. "Then what do I do?" Kael'thar's eyes glowed softly. "You learn, you grow. And one day, you decide what kind of protector this galaxy truly needs." The light around him began to fade. "Wait!" Ethan cried. "Will I see you again?" Kael'thar smiled, sad, proud, and hopeful all at once. "When you are ready," he said, "you will not walk alone." And then he was gone. The forest returned to normal. The night insects resumed their song. The stars shone peacefully, hiding the chaos beyond them. Ethan stood slowly, brushing dirt from his clothes. Above him, the sky felt different now, not empty. Watching. He clenched his fists, feeling the echo of power still humming in his veins. The world thought he was just a child. But the universe had just witnessed the birth of something far more dangerous. A protector. And somewhere in the dark between stars, forces far older than Earth began to move. The world did not slow down just because Ethan had changed. School bells still rang, cars still passed. People still laughed, argued, lived their small human lives, completely unaware that something ancient and dangerous had taken interest in a 6-year-old boy. But Ethan felt it, every second. The power inside him didn't sleep. It pulsed beneath his skin like a second heartbeat, restless and impatient. When he closed his eyes, he could sense things beyond sight, vibrations in the air, distant movements, even emotions carried on the wind. It was overwhelming. The first time he lost control, it almost killed him. It happened at night. Ethan woke up sweating, his room trembling softly as his fear bled into the air. His nightmare of alien ships tearing through the sky bled into reality. The walls creaked. His desk rattled. The glass in his window cracked. "Stop, stop, stop," he whispered, clutching his head. The power surged anyway. A shockwave blasted outward, shattering the window and throwing his door off its hinges. The house groaned like it might collapse. Then suddenly, silence. A familiar warmth filled the room. Kael'thar stood beside his bed, more solid than before, though still shimmering with ghostly light. "Enough," the alien said calmly, raising a hand. The energy obeyed. Ethan collapsed into his arms, shaking. "I can't control it," he cried. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Kael'thar knelt, placing a steady hand on his back. "Power does not make you dangerous," he said. "Fear does, and fear can be trained." Ethan looked up. "You're really here this time." "For a short while," Kael'thar replied. "I cannot remain long in your world, but I can teach you what you need to survive." That night the training began. Kael'thar taught him not with words, but with sensation. He taught Ethan how to listen to the world, how to feel the flow of energy beneath the ground, in the air, even inside living beings. He taught him that power was not something to force, but something to guide. "Strength without control is destruction," Kael'thar said as Ethan struggled to steady a floating stone. "Control without compassion is tyranny." Days passed. Ethan trained before sunrise and after sunset, hiding his lessons from the world. He learned to still his heart, to center his thoughts, to let fear pass through him instead of consuming him. But training had a cost. Each time he pushed himself, he felt weaker afterward, exhausted, dizzy, sometimes sick. His body was still human, and it was struggling to contain something far greater. Kael'thar watched with growing concern. "You are changing faster than I anticipated," he admitted. "Your kind was never meant to channel this level of energy at such an age." "Then stop teaching me," Ethan said quietly. Kael'thar looked at him for a long moment. "If I stop," he said, "you will die when the others come." That night the sky burned again. This time it wasn't one ship, it was a fleet. Dozens of dark shapes slipped through a tear in the clouds, their lights painting the heavens in sickly colors. Sirens screamed across nearby towns. Power grids failed. Panic spread. Ethan stood at the edge of the forest, watching the invasion begin. "They're here," he whispered. Kael'thar's expression hardened. "Yes, and they know what you are now." A thunderous boom shook the earth as something massive descended beyond the hills. Fires bloomed on the horizon. Screams carried on the wind. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "I won't run," he said. Kael'thar looked at him, pride and sorrow warring in his eyes. "Then it is time for your final lesson." The alien placed both hands on Ethan's shoulders. A powerful surge coursed through the boy, unlike anything before, controlled, focused, alive. "This is not about strength," Kael'thar said. "It is about choice. You must decide who you fight for." "For Earth," Ethan said without hesitation. Kael'thar smiled. "And for yourself." The sky split open as the first enemy troops descended. Ethan stepped forward. The ground trembled beneath his feet, responding to his will. The air bent around him, alive with power. For the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He felt ready. As the enemy ships descended and the world held its breath, one truth became clear. The boy was no longer just learning to survive. He was becoming something the universe had never seen before. A protector born of two worlds, and the war for Earth had only just begun. Fire rained down in streaks of blue and crimson as alien ships carved through the clouds like blades through flesh. Explosions rippled across the horizon, lighting the night brighter than day. Ethan stood at the edge of the forest, the ground trembling beneath his feet. For the first time, he wasn't afraid. The energy inside him pulsed calmly, steadily, like a heart beating in perfect rhythm with his own. He could feel the battlefield before seeing it. Every ship, every weapon, every life, and something else, something watching him. A deep vibration rippled through the air. The ground split open a few hundred meters ahead as a massive structure descended, sleek, angular, and covered in glowing sigils that pulsed like veins. A command vessel. Kael'thar stiffened beside him. "That one is not like the others," he said grimly. "That is a sovereign-class entity." The air shimmered and a towering figure emerged from the vessel. It was humanoid, but only barely. Tall, slender, wrapped in shifting black armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Its face was smooth and pale, eyes glowing with cold intelligence. Every step it took bent the ground beneath it. When it spoke, its voice echoed inside Ethan's skull rather than his ears. "So, this is the anomaly." Ethan clenched his fists. "What do you want?" The being studied him like a scientist examining a specimen. "You," it said calmly. "Or more accurately, what you are becoming." Kael'thar stepped forward, placing himself between the entity and the boy. "Stand back, Overseer," he growled. "You will not take him." The creature's eyes narrowed slightly. "Kael'thar," it said, "still clinging to obsolete loyalties, you of all beings should understand, this child is not human anymore." Ethan's chest tightened. "What does that mean?" The Overseer turned its gaze to him, cold and clinical. You are the result of a convergence long thought impossible, it said, a genetic resonance between human adaptability and our ancient energy matrices. Ethan shook his head. I didn't ask for this. No, the overseer agreed. But the universe does not ask, it selects. Kael'thar stepped closer to Ethan, his voice urgent. Do not listen, they believe power exists to be controlled, cataloged, used. The overseer raised a hand and the air around Kael'thar froze. He gasped, frozen mid-motion. This being, the overseer continued, is an anomaly that threatens balance. Left unchecked, he could destabilize entire star systems. Ethan felt rage rise in his chest. I'm not a weapon, he shouted. The overseer tilted its head. All power is a weapon, the only question is who wields it. The sky darkened as more ships descended. The forest shook violently. Fires spread across the hills. Ethan looked at the destruction, at the terrified animals fleeing, at the distant lights of human towns unaware of the danger racing toward them. Something inside him snapped. No, he said quietly. You don't get to decide that. Energy surged around him, not wild this time, focused, controlled. The ground beneath the overseer cracked. Kael'thar stared in awe. You're shaping it. Ethan stepped forward. You came here to take me. To control me, to turn me into a weapon. He raised his hand. But I choose what I fight for. A shockwave blasted outward, slamming into the overseer with staggering force. The entity staggered, armor fracturing, energy flaring wildly. For the first time, it screamed. The surrounding ships recoiled, defensive shields flaring. The overseer steadied itself, eyes blazing. Interesting, it hissed. Very interesting. It raised a hand and the sky split open. A massive structure began descending from orbit, dwarfing everything around it. Its surface was carved with ancient symbols that glowed with forbidden power. Kael'thar's voice trembled. That's a harvester. Ethan swallowed. What does it do? Kael'thar looked at him, fear naked in his eyes. It drains worlds. Silence fell as the machine descended, blotting out the stars. The overseer turned to Ethan, its voice almost reverent. You are no longer a curiosity, child, it said. You are a threat. Ethan clenched his fists, light pouring from his skin as the air screamed around him. Then I'll be the threat you fear, he said. The ground split beneath his feet as power surged through him, raw and blazing. Above them, the harvester activated. And for the first time since humanity looked to the sky, the universe prepared to strike back. The sky screamed. Not thunder, not wind. Pain. The massive harvester descended through the clouds like a god of ruin, its surface glowing with ancient symbols that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's core. Every pulse sent shockwaves across the land, buildings cracked, oceans churned, satellites fell from orbit like dying stars. Ethan stood frozen beneath it, the weight of the world pressing down on his chest. This is wrong, he whispered. Kael'thar's voice was tight with fear. The harvester drains planetary energy, life, gravity, even time itself. Once it finishes, Earth will be nothing but ash drifting in space. The overseer floated forward, untouched by the chaos. You see now, it said calmly, your world was never meant to survive this age, but you can. Ethan turned on it, fury burning in his eyes. You're destroying everything. Correction, the overseer replied. We are preserving order. The sky tore open as energy beams lanced down, striking cities across the globe. Entire regions went dark in seconds. The screams of millions echoed through the psychic field, slamming into Ethan's mind. He dropped to his knees. Make it stop, he cried. The overseer regarded him almost kindly. Join us, submit, and the destruction will end. Kael'thar grabbed Ethan's shoulders. Don't listen, this is how they break you, how they turn protectors into weapons. Ethan trembled, overwhelmed by the suffering pouring into him. Every death felt like a blade through his heart. I can't let them die, he whispered. The overseer stepped closer. Then surrender, become what you were meant to be. The world shook again, harder. Ethan screamed, and something inside him shattered. A blinding wave of energy exploded outward, throwing the overseer back for the first time. The harvester shuddered as systems failed across its massive frame. But the cost was immediate. Ethan collapsed to the ground, blood trickling from his nose, his vision blurring. Kael'thar caught him before he fell. You're burning yourself out, Kael'thar shouted. Your body can't hold this power. Ethan struggled to breathe. I don't care if it saves them. The sky darkened further as the harvester began to stabilize, adapting to the attack. The overseer rose from the smoke, its form cracked but intact. You cannot win, it said coldly. Your species is weak, fragile, temporary. Ethan looked up through tears. Maybe, he whispered, but we fight anyway. Suddenly something changed. Across the planet, humans felt it. A warmth in their chests. A pull. A call. Children looked to the sky. Soldiers froze mid-battle. Scientists, artists, strangers, millions felt something awaken inside them. Hope. Energy began to rise, not from Ethan alone, but from humanity itself. The harvester trembled violently. Kael'thar stared in disbelief. He's linking them. Ethan screamed as the connection surged through him. Every human voice, every heartbeat, every ounce of willpower flowed into him. The pain was unbearable, but so was the strength. The sky ignited. The harvester's shields shattered under the weight of human resolve. Massive fractures split its hull as light poured from within. The overseer screamed, genuine fear at last. "This is impossible." Ethan stood, barely conscious, glowing like a living star. "You were wrong," he whispered. "We're not weak." With one final cry, he released everything. The blast tore through the harvester, ripping it apart in a storm of light and fire that lit the entire planet like a second sun. When the light faded, the sky was quiet. The stars returned. And Ethan fell. Silence spread across the world. People looked up, unsure if they had just witnessed the end or a miracle. Kael'thar caught the boy's falling body, tears streaming down his face. "Please," he whispered, "stay with me." Ethan didn't move. The world held its breath. Silence ruled the world, not the peaceful kind, but the fragile kind, as if reality itself was afraid to breathe. Smoke drifted across the ruined sky. The shattered remains of the harvester burned as they fell from orbit, breaking apart before ever reaching the ground. The stars slowly returned, faint and distant, like witnesses unsure of what they had just seen. At the center of the destruction, Kael'thar knelt in a crater of glassed earth, cradling the small, unmoving body in his arms. Ethan. His chest did not rise, his eyes were closed. For the first time in centuries, Kael'thar felt something he thought long dead inside him. Fear. "No," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You cannot be gone, not after everything." The air around them trembled faintly, residual energy, unstable and fading. The echo of humanity's collective will still lingered, like a dying heartbeat. Kael'thar placed his hand over Ethan's heart. "Listen to me, child," he whispered. "You carried the weight of worlds, you gave everything, but your story cannot end here." He closed his eyes and did something forbidden. He reached inward, beyond his remaining strength, beyond the limits of his existence, and touched the core of what he was. Life force, ancient, finite, irreplaceable, it burned through him like fire. "I was meant to be a guardian," Kael'thar murmured. "Let me be one last time." Light poured from his chest into Ethan's body. The ground trembled gently, not in violence, but in reverence. Minutes passed, then Ethan coughed. A sharp, desperate gasp filled the air. His fingers twitched. Kael'thar laughed softly, relief and sorrow entwined as his own form began to fade. Ethan's eyes fluttered open. "Kael," he whispered. The alien smiled, weak but peaceful. "You did it, little warrior." Tears streamed down Ethan's face. "Don't go, please." Kael'thar's form was already dissolving into light, drifting upward like embers in the wind. "Listen to me," he said gently. "You were never chosen because of your power. You were chosen because of your heart." The wind carried his voice as his body faded. "Live well, protector of Earth." And then he was gone. The sky cleared, the fires went out. Across the planet, people emerged from shelters, staring upward in stunned silence. Satellites came back online, communications restored. The world survived. Ethan lay alone in the quiet field, staring at the sky through tears. But he was not alone for long. Soldiers arrived, scientists, leaders, they s. Soldiers arrived, scientists, leaders, they s.